The video today is going to deal with the mixing of the full color palette, and that's why you see all these tubes of paint right there in front of you. I have another video where I do something similar, but with the earth colors, with the earth palette, and I'll show you. I've got the syllabus here, and I'll show you some pictures here. See, we did something like this before. I've got the formulas here. See that these are all the grays, the reds mixed with the Venetian red or Indian red, and then the yellows mixed with the yellow ochre. But now we're gonna do the same thing, but with the brighter colors, and it'll look something like this. See, they're brighter. We're using the fully chromatic colors now, and I've got the formulas here as well. And you guys can look at this on your syllabus, and you'll find all the colors that you need. And I'll go over them right now before we start. But yeah, we're gonna make a brighter, more colorful palette. Now, if you notice here, I mean, these are the primaries from light to dark, blue, red, and yellow. Because this is the palette that I use for my Painting 1 classes. We don't use green or violet or orange. I mean, we use them in the class by mixing, but we do not use a tube of cadmium orange, a tube of dioxazine violet. We don't use a tube of Viridian or of sap green. Those you can use later on in your other painting classes. For now, I think it's good that you learn how to mix, values, and also mix your secondary and tertiary colors from this arrangement here. We did the color wheel. We did this color wheel, and we mixed, the fully intense color, and then we added white, so we made tints. All of these are tints because we added white. And on the bottom, we mixed our neutrals, mixed complements and made neutrals. With this kind of palette, we are also going to be able to have our darker values of each color. And I find this arrangement very useful for painting. It might take a while to pre-mix all your paints, but it speeds it up when you're working on your painting. And also, because of what I'm teaching you on modeling form from light to dark, making things look three-dimensional, I think this becomes very useful, because as you can see, we're going from lights to darks, and we have a gradation of color from its darkest value to its lightest value. And to start this, let me go over the materials that you need. The paints that you're going to need are, of course, you need titanium white. And as you can see here, I've got different brands. Eventually, as you get more experience painting, you settle on a certain brand for a certain color. These are all brands that I enjoy using. Titanium white, cadmium yellow pale or cadmium yellow light, a yellow ochre. This is raw umber. I also have raw umber over here. This is from Grumbacher, and this is from Winsor Newton. This here is cadmium red. This is cadmium red medium, not cadmium red dark or cadmium red deep. You need some alizarin crimson. You don't have to get the big tube of alizarin crimson. I just find it cheaper to buy big amounts of paint. This is from Utrecht. I think Utrecht no longer makes paints. Man, I think they got bought over by somebody, by Big Blick. Also like Gambling, this is ultramarine blue. Ivory black. Again, I try and use up all my paints, squeeze them out. Romber. This is flesh ochre, which is like a type of Venetian red or Indian red. But these are from Old Holland. And burnt umber. And you need a palette to arrange all your paints. And you need at least 2 palette knives. You need some paper towels. Off to the side here, I've got my paint thinner, and I've got some rags. This is, I mean, it's dirty, but it'll work for wiping and cleaning our palette knives. So the first combination that we're gonna do is we'll start off with the blues here. And on your syllabus, you can look at this, and it says the value 9, the darkest, is 1 part ivory black to 1 part ultramarine blue. So we're gonna start off with that, and so I'm gonna move these aside here, and I just need my ivory black and my ultramarine blue. And I made some modifications to these notes, because I'll show you right now. We're gonna start off combining equal amounts of ivory black and ultramarine blue. You can also use French ultramarine. So I'm gonna get about the same amount. This is gonna give us our darkest value. See, very convenient to have 2 palette knives, because we can do this. And this will be our darkest value of blue. And now the next one, this is value 9. We'll put it right here. That's value 9. We're not gonna mix this with white. This is just to darken our ultramarine blue. And so that is our darkest. And then the next one is pure ultramarine. They look almost on cameras. I look here on the phone. They look almost similar, but of course, the ultramarine by itself is slightly lighter than the mixture with black. And from now on, in the blues, I'm just gonna mix with white. So I'm gonna get my white. This is also from Old Holland. Let me squeeze this out here. And I'm gonna do something similar to what I did when I mix the grays. I'm gonna mix equal amounts of white and ultramarine, and this is gonna give us not 7, not the value 7, but I'm thinking something like the 5 or the 4. And there's debates as to what blue to use and which is the true blue, which is the Spectrum's blue. Some people say it's cobalt blue. Some people like to use Persian blue. I think for me this is more natural looking. Ultramarine replaced the lapis lazuli. So it's that pigment made from ground lapis from a precious stone, and it's more subdued than the other blues, I think. So I'm using this printout here as a reference for value, you know, placing it on top. So I think this, if I see as it moves over like there, or I think that is 5, it looks darker. I think it's a 6. So I'm gonna take part of this, and it'll be 6, and I'm gonna take part of it here. Half of it I'm gonna make darker to make the 7, and then part I'm gonna make lighter to make the 5. So, and see, this is ultramarine by itself, so I'm gonna add about the same amount of blue as the white. See this value here. Okay, scrape off all the paint here so I don't get different streaks of color. See, this is gonna go right there in between the 6 and the 8. And it goes right there. See how carefully I arranged my palette? So you got 9, 8, 7, and 6, and I'm going to, I think, well, to be safe, you swipe this off. And about the same amount of white, and I'm going to turn this into my value 5. And mix it thoroughly. So this is 5. I'm gonna cut this in half because I'm gonna lighten that up. That's my 5. This will be my 4. So I'll take half of this. So that's, well, I might make some adjustments here in a little bit. So that's my 4. Let's see how this looks when I make it a value 3. About the same amount. This is 3. I think it'll work. I was concerned there for a little bit. So this is, I don't know, that looks a little too similar. A little too similar to 4. So I'm gonna, like, again, remember, if you don't like the way that the color is looking, separate it like what I did there. See, I moved half of it over here because a smaller amount of color is easier to change than a big amount. So this will be my 3. I think now, let's see, I like that better. And I'll take a little bit here, and I'm going to make the value 2. Again, remember that the value 1 is just going to be white by itself. And I tend to go dark with my values, so I'm aware that I usually end up doing that, so that's why I'm pushing the lighter values here. Okay, again, that might look too similar to 3. And this will be very bright. I'll take the rest of this white here. There you go. So those are my blues. And I'm just gonna get a little bit of white here. Put it there. A little bit of yellow on my palette there. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm gonna leave that blue there on the edge. And I'll wipe this off. I'm gonna move on to the reds. And again, this here is the earth palette, but this one's going to be the same. See, and this lines up with the value 8, not the 9. And this is a combination, 1 part alizarin crimson, 1 part burnt umber. And that's the same as over here as on the fully chromatic I gotta put another reference photo. This is not too accurate. Let's see here. 1 part alizarin crimson, 1 part burnt umber. So alizarin, it's a red violet, very strong. Let me close up my Gamblin ultramarine blue. There's some very expensive brands of paint. I had a student, he was buying, I think it's called Michael Harding. Even more expensive than Old Holland. Oh, mixing the darkest value of red. So I got alizarin and burnt umber. Not to be confused with raw umber. Raw umber is, well, from what I understand, it is toasted until it turns, or heated up until it turns into burnt umber, which gives it a more reddish quality to it. Just removing some dried skin here. So you combine these two, it gives you a deep red. This is what red looks like in the shadow. Is what this, this is blue in the shadow, this is blue in the light. Same thing here. This is what when you put a red object in the shadow, you would find this color. Again, when you have shadow, you have loss of clarity, and therefore you have the loss of the intensity of the color. So that's gonna go here. That's why it's red, but it's not as intense. So I'm gonna take half of this. I'm gonna try to mix this. Well, I'm gonna mix this with cadmium red. Equal amounts. And this mixture will be equal amounts cadmium red, see, it becomes like red oxide. So it becomes like Indian red, becomes like red ochre. So on the notes, I say to put the Indian red or the red ochre, but and you can do that, but I think it's better, well, not better, I just decided to make it with the cadmium red. But this in there, in that section, can be your red ochre. But just to show you what happens if you would mix the red ochre with a combination of burnt umber and alizarin crimson. And the next one is going to be pure cadmium red. And then from then on, we're going to mix cadmium red with white. second the same amounts. There's a little bit of blue here on my white, but I think it'll be okay. So this will be our 5. Now when you want to make a color more intense or brighter, you don't necessarily add white. White will make it'll wash it out. If you want to get the colors to look bright, you have to resort back to the way that it looks just out of the tube. Okay, so this is by adding white, it gives you a lighter value, but not necessarily a brighter color. So that is, I think we got our 8, 7, 6, 5. We'll make our our 4. Well, first I'll check here. And it's a little bit more white. It was looking too similar. So in my painting 1 class, I don't allow the students to use orange, green, or violet out of the tube. They have to, part of the training, they have to be able to mix it. So there you go, that's 4. Three. I don't think I need this much. So I can make it lighter. This is our 2. And we'll move on to the yellows. Get some paint in there. And we'll move on to the yellows. Yellow in the dark, let's say yellow, as it falls into shadow, it becomes raw umber. So the darkest yellow is going to be, use up my little tube here of a so that goes there. That's easy to mix. The next one is yellow ochre, equal amounts yellow ochre with the raw umber. And I'm using Sennelier. It's a fancy sounding French brand of paint. So this is also yellow in shadow. This can use a little bit more yellow ochre. So that is, this is 7. And then I'm gonna mix this. Take this and put even more yellow ochre into it. So that's 8, 7, this will be our 6. I didn't mix it too well in there. Seem to have some streaks of yellow ochre and of raw umber that were not mixed thoroughly. And then the next one so this is 8, 7, 6. And just on my notes here, see we did 6, 1 part raw umber, 1 part yellow ochre. Now number 5 is 1 part yellow ochre, 1 part cadmium yellow pale. We mix this yellow ochre with same amount of cadmium yellow. Like sunshine coming into the world here. The next one is pure yellow ochre. Pure cadmium yellow. And so that is 8, 7, 6, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Oh, hold on. I missed one. So this lines up with this. Yeah, I forgot there's a space here. Yeah, it was too much of a jump there. See, this is 5. That was 6. I was like, something's not right. In here is pure cadmium. Not cadmium, sorry again. I was jumping the gun here. I was trying to rush through this. So you should never try and rush. Here it's this is the 5, pure yellow ochre. So now it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then the last is cadmium yellow light with white. I was trying, yeah, I was rushing here and I skipped number 5. So cadmium yellow. And there you have it. This is our completed color wheel, color palette. See, yellow's the brightest. It's like kind of blinds you. Now, just to go over this, go over the combinations. Here on the blue line, the first one it's ivory black and ultramarine blue, equal amounts. Then the next one is pure ultramarine. Then I mixed equal amounts of ultramarine and white, and I came up with this one. And from here I took half of that and I made a little bit more ultramarine, made this one, and then kept adding more and more white. For the reds, this first one is a combination of alizarin crimson and burnt umber. And this is that mixture with cadmium red. And then it's cadmium red, and then cadmium red with white, and more white. This is raw umber. This is equal amounts of yellow ochre and raw umber. And then you mix that, and then you cut that in half, and then you put in more yellow ochre, same amount of yellow ochre, and then you get this one. Then it's pure yellow ochre, then equal amounts of yellow ochre and cadmium yellow light, and then cadmium yellow, and a cadmium yellow with white. And here, of course, if you want to make greens, you combine blues and yellows. You're gonna make a dark green. These will give you a dark green. You want to make a dark violet, blue and red. You want to make a light orange, red and yellow. Make a dark orange. Go here. And on the next video that I'll make, I'll start working on a still life, and I'll be using this palette. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you later.